Hey, my GraphCom kids, good to see you all again. Hope you've all been well. Today we're going to get into a little bit of photography and how cameras work, some of the basics. Once again, I wish we were doing this in the shop where we've got more equipment and it's a lot easier for me to explain things, but we'll do the best we can. Sometimes when I teach photography, the students are like, "Oh, Mr. Flake, you make this so hard." It's like, no, I'm not making it hard. It's just that there's way more to photography than taking your cell phone and pointing it at something and saying click. I mean, these are great. This is an iPhone 11. It's amazing. But really, to get deeper into photography, you need to understand the technicalities of the machine when shooting with a true camera. So some of the terms we're going to talk about today relates to that. So how you can have the most control of the camera so you can kind of take really good pictures just by saying click, but then also taking it to the next level and understanding the machine that is the camera and really taking some amazing pictures rather than accidentally on purpose. There's a couple of things I'd like you to remember from me about photography. And the cameras, they all come in different sizes and shapes. This is a film-based 35mm SLR camera. This is a digital 35mm DSLR digital camera. So cameras come in all different sizes, shapes, qualities. One thing I'd like you to remember from me about cameras is that cameras are nothing more than a light, tight box with a hole in it. And that photography is about controlling light and time. And that's from the technical side of things. Controlling light and time. Camera is nothing more than a light, tight box with a hole in it. And then the whole other side of it is the creativity of the composition. Photographic composition. What you are doing to arrange your shot, what you're trying to capture, and how that shot is arranged and how you're composing that through the viewfinder of the camera. So, light tight box with a hole in it, controlling light and time, and in photographic composition of getting very creative and composing a beautiful photograph. SLR, those three letters. What does SLR mean in photography? Single lens reflex. That's a particular type, style of camera, single lens. It's a camera that you can remove the lens, the single lens, and you can change it up with different types of specialty lenses. Telephoto lens, for instance, that will bring your subject closer to you. Fisheye lens, macro lens for shooting things really, really super close up. So SLR. This is an SLR camera, film-based camera. This is an SLR digital camera. As far as cameras go and the whole film versus digital, the concepts are incredibly similar. They are the same. The only difference is how the image is captured. On a digital camera, it's captured to an SD card or a memory card. On a film-based camera, it's captured to film. But concepts we're talking about today are kind of universal. They're photography concepts. And you just have to understand what they mean on a film-based camera and what they mean on a digital camera. And then you've got your control, and then you can do your photographic creative magic. Okay, let's take a look at this SLR camera lens. This is a polished glass lens that allows you to focus on your subject. You've got a focus ring. Right here I'm turning the focus ring. I'm just got to get this lined up. There we go. Turning my focus ring. And what that does is it actually brings and adjusts that glass lens on your subject to bring it sharply in focus. So that's your focus adjustment ring on your lens. The aperture. The aperture means the hole in the camera. The light-tight box with a hole in it. The hole in it is called aperture. And you adjust the aperture. It's kind of like the iris of your eye. And hopefully this is coming across okay. I'm turning my aperture ring, and that's making that hole bigger and smaller. And that's one of the variables that you can control. How much light is getting into the camera. Controlling light and time. So the aperture. Apertures are measured in something called f-stops, like F as in flake, f-stops. And the bigger the hole, the bigger that aperture, that's going to allow a lot of light and a lot of image through the lens and into the camera. Those are measured with smaller f-stops. And then if you bracket down to larger f-stop numbers, it gives you a smaller hole. So it's a little kind of wonky and backwards, but to understand it, the bigger the number on your aperture ring, which is right here, the smaller the hole. As you bracket to smaller numbers, smaller f-stops, say 1.7 there, that's a big hole. So, smaller the number, bigger the hole, lots of light. Big number, little hole, little bit of light. Aperture. Now you're combining the amount of light, your position in reference to your subject, and you're focusing. So aperture relates to depth of field, which we'll talk about, but the amount of light that gets into the camera. Okay, I'd like to talk about shutter speed now. We already spoke about aperture, and that's the hole in the camera and how large or small it is, and that's adjusted on the aperture ring on the lens. The shutter speed is adjusted on this knob right here. Whoops, sorry. There we go, that's the one. That is our shutter speed adjustment knob. Okay, what shutter speed is how quickly or slowly that shutter will open and close. It's your second variable as far as controlling light. So depending on your subject, you would adjust either a fast or slow shutter speed. And once again, you would do that by turning the shutter speed knob. Okay? So we've got shutter speed. So you're going to combine the concepts of aperture and shutter speed based on what you're shooting, what the lighting conditions are, and you're using those two variables. Third variable, ISO. ISO refers to sensitivity. In a film-based camera, ISO means the sensitivity of the film. Here we go. Here's a roll of film, and remember when we did the printing press and we made plates? Plates were light sensitive, had an emulsion and a base side. When we talked about screen printing, the screen printing film had an emulsion, light sensitive gel, and a base. Well, film for a camera has got a base side and an emulsion side. Now, how that emulsion is chemically prepared by the manufacturer is how quickly or slowly it will react to light. And again, it depends on what you're shooting. If you're shooting a still life, you would choose a particular speed or sensitivity of film. If you're shooting a fast-moving situation, you would select a film that is better suited for fast-moving. It's sensitive for fast-moving subjects. So, what I usually buy for you folks is 400 speed or sensitivity film. 400 speed film refers to sensitivity. ISO. ISO is a standards organization. So, but it really, again, to simplify it, sensitivity or speed of the film. But wait, if that refers to film, then why on my digital camera, I got this on this tripod, on my digital camera, why do I have ISO settings here? There's no film in here. This is a digital camera. We still have the concept of ISO on a digital camera, how fast or quickly the image is captured, the sensitivity setting of how that image is captured to the card. So here again, you have fundamentally the same concept on two different types of image capturing technology. Sensitivity of the film, how fast it's captured to the film. Sensitivity settings, how fast the image is captured to the card. So ISO. So we're going to be combining the three things: ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. Okay, so we've got our aperture, we've got our shutter speed, we have our ISO. And you may be wondering, well, Mr. Flake, how do I know what to set it? There's a lot of numbers, a lot of dials, a lot of buttons. What do I set it to? Well, it all very much depends on what you're shooting, what your lighting conditions are. Well, how do you know what your lighting conditions are? These cameras are really, really very smart. They've got built-in light meters. And they're really so smart, just like your iPhone. I could probably put this camera behind my back, point it at a subject and click, and probably get a decent photo. You'd be saying, Flake, what's the matter with that? What's the problem there? Why do I have to know this aperture thing and ISO thing and shutter speed thing? That's because I want you to kind of go beyond just clicking and getting a decent photo, essentially by accident or out of the box. I want you to kind of go further and be able to take a really amazing photo, even a special effects type of photo, by adjusting these three variables. But anyway, how do you know which three variables? They've got built-in light meters that you pointed at your subject. It tells you where you're at, distance, lighting conditions, and then you go through your menu modes and buttons to adjust it. On the film-based camera, it does have a light meter built into it. You press the shutter halfway down and it tells you, hey, I need more light. I need to open up my aperture, slow my shutter speed down, combination of both, change the ambient lighting by putting in supportive lighting or getting a flash unit, and then taking the picture. So controlling that through light meters, built-in light meters here. On the film-based camera, built-in light meters here. On the digital camera, there's a lot of apps, free apps that are on your smartphone, available for the smartphone, that you point it at your subject. It'll tell you exactly what you should set your old school film-based camera to get the best shot given the lighting conditions. So aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and light meters. Well, there was a lot to it today. Again, my mission here is not to overcomplicate it. Mission is trying to simplify it. It's best understood when you get an opportunity to actually practice it. And that's one of my kind of disappointments, that we can't be in the shop and we can't be actually taking pictures and developing them and learning what these concepts actually do in the field by practical application of them. Hey, I took this picture and I developed the film and it was overexposed, and gee, I'm going to have to kind of work on controlling my light a little bit. You just kind of get it more when you do the hands-on. So once again, I apologize that we can't be in the shop doing this. These concepts become more clear as you practice them in the shop. Those of you who will be returning, my brave souls, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to actually get that hands-on practice in the shop, hopefully next year. Okay? So that's basically the overview of some basics of cameras. And from a technical point of view, we haven't really talked about the whole beautiful creative side of photo composition where, you know, what you're trying to capture and what type of message you're trying to communicate by means of an image. I mean, we'll get to some of that, and certainly next year for the brave souls coming back, we're going to get deep into that. So basic terminologies, though, to kind of warm you up, get you thinking about it. I'm going to give you an assignment next week that just basically ensures that you get these basic concepts that I've talked about today. Okay, so that's it for now. Intro to cameras and photography. Thank you very much, and be well.
When I was younger, now I should know better, and now I can't feel no remorse. You can't feel nothing there. Got a new girlfriend, feels like she's on top, and now I don't feel no remorse, and you can't see past my blindness. Whoa, Ophelia, you've been on my mind, girl, since the flood. Whoa, Ophelia, heaven help the fool who falls in love. Got a little paycheck, you got big plans, you gotta move. Woo! And I don't see nothing at all, and you don't feel nothing small. Honey, I love you, that's all she wrote. Oh, Ophelia, you've been on my mind, girl, like a drug. Oh, Ophelia, heaven help the fool who falls in love. Oh, Ophelia, you've been on my mind, girl, since the flood. Oh, Ophelia, heaven help the fool